National anarchism is a radical, anti-capitalist, anti-statist, right-wing political and cultural ideology which emphasizes ethnic tribalism as a prelude to an anticipated racial civil war and a collapse of the capitalist system. National anarchists seek to establish autonomous villages for folkish communities which have succeeded from the state's economy and are no-go areas for unwelcome ethnic groups and state authorities. I hadn't even heard of this particular ideology until I happened upon a certain website a few days ago. That website being www.nationalanarchist.net. The first thing which grabbed my attention was the first sentence of a post from August 24 titled "The National Anarchist Attitude Towards the So-Called Libyan Rebels." Someone who goes by the handle Anarcho-Anglo states, "The blood-drenched vermin in the globalist establishment condemn the riots in England, yet continue to foment strife and bloodshed abroad." Anytime I hear somebody refer to any group of human beings as vermin, it immediately puts me on edge. And it makes me think I'm dealing with a hateful person. The writer believes that the Arab Spring was systematically engineered, and he or she calls the Libyan rebels pseudo-revolutionaries. Interesting. Reading the National Anarchist Movement's manifesto on this site was also interesting. The introduction gives us a history lesson of sorts, saying some contentious things. Then you've got 10 parts to the manifesto itself. There's a how to join the National Anarchist Movement section at the end, after the 10 parts. Part 1 is called Anti-Zionism. Nothing I haven't heard before here. Part 2 is called Anarchism. There's talk here of a natural order and natural authority, among other things. Part 3 is called The Failure of the Left. As you can imagine, the left is bashed and battered good and proper in this part. Part 4, Community Against the State. Apparently, national anarchists oppose parliamentary democracy. They want to return to the Witten-Agimot system, which is an Anglo-Saxon tradition, a political institution in Anglo-Saxon England, actually. National anarchists are against centralised rule. In fact, they don't want the state to exist at all. Part 5 is called Racial Separation. You know, this movement is claiming that it isn't right-wing, but it clearly is. Some silly things are said in this part 5 here. Part 6 is called Economic Autarky. There's talk here of establishing alternative businesses and withdrawing from the fraudulent money system. Part 7 is called Green Replenishment. There's talk here of reclaiming the natural world from the clutches of capitalism. There's also talk of humans being natural guardians of the soil. You know what comes across as I read this? Read between the lines, I mean. What comes across is contempt for human beings and contempt for the modern world we live in. The person who wrote this seems to have a very favourable view of pre-industrial rural living of a certain kind. In my view, the person who wrote this is a racist with a tribalistic view of the world. This person is really out of touch and deluded, in my view. Part 8 is called Alternative Education. Clearly, national anarchists favour homeschooling. It's not surprising, of course, that anarchists oppose state education. There's talk here of alternative this and alternative that. Alternative books, educational alternatives, alternative future, blah blah blah. Part 9 is called Defence. Apparently, anarchist village communities will be armed appropriately, human nature being what it is. But there'll be no need for a police force in an anarchist village community, because villages will police themselves, just like the good old days. Anarchist villages won't need to have a standing army either. Or an anarchist village won't need to have a standing army, I mean. But communities will band together to form loosely organised militias comprised of highly trained individuals. Okay. Part 10 is called Revolution. The writer pays lip service to Hamas here. Clearly, Anarcho-Anglo respects Hamas and their war of liberation against the evil Zionists. The writer speaks of purity of thought and action, and there's talk of ideals inspiring dedication and fanaticism. There are some tough-talking words here. Quote, "This fight demands loyalty, and it demands commitment. If we are not prepared to give our blood, sweat and tears, then we will achieve nothing. According to this manifesto, national anarchists believe in a natural meritocracy, reflecting the individual's true nature. They don't buy into Marxist equality or egalitarianism. So what do they want, national anarchists? A world made up of self-sufficient, perhaps patriarchal villages, racially pure communities, living in constant fear of the outsider, maybe Jew-fearing communities, communities which reject the modern world, villages made up of tribalistic, small-minded people, I imagine. I think that's what national anarchists want. Check out the website. Let me know what you think. Feel free to post comments below. Catch you next time, folks. Peace.